about this decision.
Thanks. Bye. It has happened. Finally, dude. About time I'm off the team. Jaylen, we appreciate you. Okay, so who did we get for Jaylen? Doesn't even matter, dude. I'm just glad to be out of here. Jaylen, you're going to Philadelphia. Oh, sweet. Wait, did we just get Tyrese Maxey? No, we didn't get Tyrese Maxey. No way we just got VJ Edgecombe. No, we did not get VJ Edgecombe. So we got Joel Embiid and a couple picks? We got a couple picks, but we did not get Embiid. So then, who did we possibly get? We got Paul George. Oh my gosh! If it was legally allowed, I'd put you in a triangle choke right now, and I would not release if you tapped out. Okay, but you didn't hear the draft compensation that we got. I mean, if they gave us a lot of picks, we got 2 first-round picks. I take back everything I said. I'm going to put you in a Boston crab. We just traded one of our franchise players for Paul George on a max contract and 2 first-round picks? Look, he wanted out. And on top of that, we just traded a Twitch streamer for a podcaster? Look, it's the only deal we had. I'm done waiting. No, Joe, please no. All right.
Welcome in, everybody. Joe Quills here with you on this Thursday night. A Thursday night show that was not planned, well, was planned then was not planned, and then was planned again. It was planned last minute that I chose not to wear sleeves tonight because it was 103 degrees today. It was flipping hot. But yeah, it was a hot day here in Philly. Hot day all across the eastern half of the United States. And a lot of cancellations in the horse racing world as well. Because, it's all about the horse now. About 10, 20 years ago, 102. Now we take everything into precaution. And I was watching Colonial Downs because the race of the day today was a race from Colonial Downs because the race that they originally planned at Ellis Park was canceled because the whole car was canceled ahead of time. So they filled it in with Colonial. They ran the 7th race, but I guess there is a threshold where you can, where if the heat index goes to a certain point, then the races are canceled. But whatever that threshold is, they did get to that today down in Virginia, so that's why they canceled. And other places like Parks and Delaware Park and Belterra and other tracks were Horseshoe Windy as well. They just said, you know what, we're not even going to wait. We're just going to get canceled. I mean, especially Parks because they had a special 5 o'clock post. And the reason why we were not going to have a Thursday show is because I was going to get content for the Q&A Racing Facebook page. But unfortunately, everything got heated out and whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so it is a hot Thursday, and a lot going on today despite that. And I will say this. I thought I was hallucinating yesterday when I saw that Jaylen Brown got traded to the Sixers. And we'll get into that in a second. Of course, now, because Jaylen Brown's a Sixer as of Monday, now the Sixers are in the mix for LeBron, apparently. So we'll get into that. Tim Hardaway Sr. tells his son that he can't wear his number 10 in Miami. There was a bench clearer in Boston the other night. 4 different players got suspended. The 2 main combatants, if you want to call them combatants, I don't agree with the suspensions of those. I'll tell you why in a moment. Jacob Misiorowski, unlikely to start the All-Star game or pitch in the All-Star game. I'll tell you why. And it's not what you think it is. It's not an injury. But we'll get into that as well. So, hope everybody's staying cool because I was out at Constadter's yesterday and wasn't as hot as today, but yeah, it was pretty damn hot. It was about 98, about 105, maybe 110 with the humidity. And the one thing I said last night when we were sitting there right before the show started, I said, the temperature wouldn't be that bad if there was any wind. And there was basically no wind when we were sitting there at Constadter's waiting for the show to start. But yeah, so we got 3 more days of this. We hit 103 here in Philadelphia. So we got way up there. We broke a record for today, and we're looking at 100+ degree. I think 104 tomorrow. My phone will probably say 102. Yeah, my phone's saying 102 today, 101 tomorrow, 97 on Saturday. But the news is saying 104, 101, and then finally cooling off on Sunday. Where I mean, everybody's going to be dressing like Little Nicky, Adam Sandler in the movie Little Nicky, where he thinks it's cold as hell, but well, how that saying goes, but it's everybody's going to be dressing like it's the dead of winter, especially on the Market Frank Riddell and Broad Street lines, because anytime the temperature gets below 60 degrees in winter, everybody dresses like it's the dead of winter. But yeah, so hot here, and a lot of people were complaining. I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, they should postpone the game or make it later or whatever." Now, in regards to the Phillies didn't have an issue with getting out, because if they really wanted to, they can wait till tomorrow afternoon to leave, because they're off tomorrow because Kansas City is hosting a World Cup match at Arrowhead. So obviously you can't. It's just like Citizens Bank Park. You can't host both events at the same time. So that's why they had to wait there. It's probably why the MLB schedule was so late being announced last year for this year, because of the fact that we got to figure out these World Cup issues. So I think that had a part in it. But I don't know when the exact date was, but I guarantee you it was. Guarantee you that whatever the date was will be earlier this year. So, but I do want to mention one thing here, and of course, this is the part of the show where I do not. Part of the show that I probably should have put it in the notes and other stuff here, but I didn't. But I am going to add this to the thing. The Phillies fan base at times can be whiny fucking bitches. Yeah, I said I'm a Phillies fan that said that. And I'll tell you why. And I said it a couple of times to people today. But people are saying, well, the Phillies should be home on the 4th of July. And I said, not really. So I answered a couple of people, one on Threads, one on I said it on X, and I think on Threads as well. So here's what I said to one of my followers and who I follow as well. I said, the Phillies don't always play the 4th at home. Teams who host the All-Star game usually have a 7-day road trip before the break. If the Phillies were like some teams with traditions of playing on certain days, then I would be the number one guy on this. I'm more pissed that the Sixers and Comcast Spectacor didn't have the NBA All-Star game here. In 1976, the NBA, NHL, and MLB all had All-Star games here. So, and I've said this numerous times over the last year or so, when we started to really get into looking ahead to 2026, because nobody wanted, but the Phillies were going after the 2026 All-Star game like 10 years in advance. Because it's like 250, you were here for 200, blah, blah, blah. So, and usually, in many cases, when MLB has a new stadium, they usually give them an All-Star game fairly quickly. Happened with many different stadiums around the league, especially during that build that mostly every team had. But Philly didn't want it because they wanted 2026 because it was the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States, of declaring our independence. So, and the reason why it got announced so far in advance, I think it was around 2019, Because I remember they announced it at Independence Hall. And I know it was before COVID. So they announced it, and they said that 2026 would be here in Philly. But the thing is, usually the All-Star Game isn't announced 7 years in advance. They did a solid for the Phillies in announcing it 7 years in advance because David Montgomery was on his deathbed for the most part. So they announced it, and unfortunately, David Montgomery died not far after that, and he did get to see that be announced before he passed away. So they did see that. They did see that through, and we've been sitting on this for 7 years here, and the World Cup was announced about the same time and all that, and also Philly sports fans should know that it's very, very rare that you have an event at the Link and at Citizens Bank Park playing at the same time, because there's only so much parking spots down at the center, or down in the complex, I should say. But I just think that, it's the 250th, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's more to it than just the holiday itself, because the Phillies don't always play at home on the 4th. Last year, I think they did. I mean, there's been years that they've been off. And, I'm gonna look this up now. Screw it. But it isn't like the Washington Nationals where they have an 11 a.m. game on the 4th. It isn't Cincinnati where they have the tradition of playing it isn't Cincinnati where they have the tradition of starting the season at home, even though they're not the first game of the season, because they should be the first game of the season starting at 12:15, 12:30, whatever. But so I'm looking over this now here. So since 2021, Phillies were home in 21 to San Diego. 2022, they were off. But they finished the series with the Cardinals on the 3rd, and they played the Nationals on the 5th. In 23, Phillies were at Tampa Bay. 24, they were at Chicago, and they went from there to Atlanta. Last year, they were at home to face Cincinnati. So you do have that. So it isn't a given that the Phillies will play at home on the 4th of July. And I think in a way the Phillies kind of prefer to be on the road, because a lot of times, there's only so much police presence you can have, because remember, this is Philadelphia. This isn't a city where, ho hum, it's the 4th of July, happy birthday America, whatever. This is where America was founded. And we have things going on all day. Well, not this year because of the heat, but like, for example, you have the Medal of Freedom, I think it's called. That's going to the Pope. Now, he's not going to be here, but he's going to be via Zoom and accept the award in a video conference. But, there's still going to be the concert at the Art Museum, which there's big controversy with that with the mayor, because that's supposed to be a Wawa event Wawa Welcome America event and not a whatever she deemed it this year. But, things happen where the heat happens, and before you know it, you're looking at a 105-degree day, which we may have tomorrow, and probably close to that on Saturday. On top of that, you have the World Cup as well. So, but I think we see a lot of things going on here that, the Phillies alone aren't saying we must be home for the 4th of July every year. If the Phillies were, then they'd be playing they'd be playing whoever here tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday, because with the World Cup playing on the 4th, you're not going to have the United States, you're not going to have the Phillies playing on the 4th, especially on a day where, especially with everything going on. But, you could argue, well, why do they have the World Cup on the 4th, but not, But, I think in some regards, you may have a case where some cops will probably be double dutying, where they're going to be covering the World Cup, and then as the game ends and people leave, you start getting go towards the art museum. But I think the parade got shortened and all that. So, but because of the heat, but a lot of things have changed because of the heat, but you don't necessarily have any, but it's not because the Phillies should be at home. Should the Phillies be home on the 4th of July? Yeah, sure. Why not? But the thing is, you look at everything, the Phillies are not the Cincinnati Reds where they have to be home to start the season. They're not the Boston Red Sox where they have an 11 a.m. game on Patriots Day. They're not the Washington Nationals that have a 4th of July game at 11 a.m. And I'm just verifying if that's still 11 a.m. this year, which is a blessing in disguise to them because of the heat. Washington has an 11:05 game on Saturday against Pittsburgh. So, and also, I think the 12:35 game was in play today for the Phillies. Even though they usually do 1:05, they gave Pittsburgh an extra half an hour because of the fact that they're going from a 6:45 game, which Washington has done at like 6:05 on the 3rd, so that they can bring it back the next morning. You go from a 6:45 game to 11:05 game, it's a little tight, and you get a thunderstorm in there, you're probably going to just screw it, we're just going to suspend the game. You do have, it's probably built into the schedule that we give them an extra half an hour so that they can get from here to Washington. So at least that's what I think. So everybody that I've seen that said, oh, the Phillies should be home for the 4th, shut up. We haven't always been a team that hosts on the 4th of July, so there is no tradition of doing it. It would be nice if it happened, but you just see one thing, baseball reference. Schedule results. Phillies weren't even home on the 4th of July in 1976. They were in Schittsburg. They played a doubleheader in Pittsburgh that day. So I don't want to hear the 4th of July, the Phillies should be playing at home. They didn't play in 1976 either. They didn't play in 1976 at home on the 4th. They came home on the 5th, but they were in Pittsburgh on the 4th. So I don't want to hear Philly should be home on the 4th because it's the World Cup. No. It's more because of the All-Star game, but still, it's just fitting everything into place here. So say what you will, but I don't know. And one second. Yeah, I got my hopes up because somebody followed me, and here it's a bot. She. But yeah, so so just to close things out on this thought here, Phillies haven't always hosted on the 4th of July, and if they did, you got an argument. But your argument is invalid because they weren't even here for the 200th anniversary. So you lose. Now, I did tell you I was at Constarters yesterday, and they did go on. And one day I have to go off on their Facebook page and say, hey, listen, this guy they have, the MC, Steve, you need to get rid of. He contradicts himself every week. We don't talk politics here. And then he goes off in this right-wing agenda, as I said a couple of nights ago, where stand up. I mean, at least he says if you're able to. That's the only thing he does better than Dan Baker. But a lot of the things that you will see with him is, I mean, it's just as bullshitty as, he says, oh, yeah, please rise, remove your hats. Everybody shut up for the anthem. Or not exactly like that. Everybody be quiet for the anthem and blah, blah, blah. That's right-wing bullshit if you ask me. And, I mean, yeah, oh, you're just a liberal, this and that and the other thing. Listen, I'm a free thinker. My voter card does say Democrat, but you know what? I'm not afraid of voting Republican if they're the better person for the job. And not gonna lie, I haven't voted Democrat in the mayoral election in Philadelphia in at least 6 cycles, maybe longer. Like, for example, the last election, David O was running for mayor as a Republican. I was hoping for the oh shit moment, but didn't happen. But as I'm sitting there before the show started, and it's really hot there, and I'm chugging my water because you try to stay as hydrated as you can, whether you're going to be outside for 15 minutes or 3 hours like we were. Now, granted, once the sun started to go down, we also got a little bit of a breeze as well, which helped. But when this popped up on my phone, and I think it was ESPN that came up first, and then the local news stations here, I'm like, huh? We got Jaylen Brown from the Celtics? You're fucking kidding, right? And then once the other ones started coming in and saying, I'm like, I guess we got Jaylen Brown. Now, granted, he was rumored last year to be traded, I believe, but he wasn't. Um, and he was going to be traded in the Giannis trade that didn't go through. They tried to trade him, but he went. Giannis went to Miami. But like I said in that video, like I showed in that video, there's no. I mean, well, first of all, there was no rumors going on, so you know, you didn't hear anybody. You didn't hear anybody talking about this trade at all, or possibility of him going anywhere, at least to hear, because trading between the Celtics and the Sixers is like trading Eagles and Cowboys. It really shouldn't happen, but it did. Occasionally it happens, especially on draft night with the Eagles, but other than that, you don't see anything like that. But when I saw that deal, I'm like, are you kidding me? Jaylen Brown for Paul George? Really? And the one thing I said to my friends last night, including one who is a Celtics fan, one thing I did say is, this is probably a salary cap move for them. But then again, they took Paul George. Now, I think Jaylen Brown's contract is a little bit higher per year, so they probably get a little bit of a break, but not much. But it was all about a salary cap dump, even though they had to take a certain amount to make the trade go through. Well, when it goes through on Monday. So I saw that. I'm like, are you kidding me? So once it went through, and once I started seeing the stuff on my friend's Discord page, I'm like, wow. So the one thing I did, and I don't do these that often anymore. I do have a futures ticket on the New York Mets to not make the playoffs, which is looking really good right now, considering I did it as in, I got $8 left on this voucher for my horse racing stuff, and I don't want to sit with an $8 voucher till October. Which reminds me, I don't want to go in September. So as I'm sitting there at Constadter's on the picnic bench, I started looking around because somebody posted that the Sixers went from plus 5,000 to win the title to plus 2,200. Now, I will say this. Call me a homer, call me what you will. I don't care. If it wins, I invested some good money. So my thinking behind it was I need my towel because no, that ain't it. Oh, well, I got to deal with it then. So my thinking behind this was with Edgecombe, BJ Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown. Those three alone, in my opinion, could get you to an Eastern Conference final. With the caveat, which is the caveat not just for Joel Embiid, but truthfully, any player in any sport, whether it's baseball, if they stay healthy, I think the Sixers could even win with Joel Embiid injured or gone from this team. Because you have three guys who can light it up. And I think you got a veteran presence here that can help VJ Edgecombe, can help Tyrese Maxey, even though he's a professional. So I decided to put a couple of future wagers on the Sixers to win the title and be like, oh, you're overreacting. Okay. Well, after I tell you the second part here, I guarantee you I'm not getting 22 or 25 to 1. But the sports books reacted to this trade and were like, holy shit. Just like me, it's like, all right, what do we put this? 20, 22, 25. You know, different books have different things. So I jumped on it because I thought, if something like this were to happen in Philly, where this time next year we're talking about being the reigning defending NBA champions, I'm going to have that extra money in my bank account. So, I'd rather take a shot and not win than not bet at all and say, yeah, I could have had a couple $1,000. But I went on that because of the fact that I just think that if you take Embiid out of the picture, let's say he gets hurt again, I think that you can survive this next run, run next season without him. Now, people say, "Oh, you're nuts." Yeah, it's not the first time I've been called nuts today, let alone any other day. But don't be surprised if you see the Sixers being all kinds of trouble in the East. I mean, all of a sudden, the East is getting pretty loaded. Indiana could be back to where they were last a year ago before Tyrese Halliburton blew out his Achilles. You got the Knicks, who are the defending champions. You got Cleveland, who's been teetering. You have Detroit, who were upset in the second round last year. Probably needed experience as the number one seed, even though they're still a young team, but they were in the playoffs last year. Now you get to the point where there are zero excuses for the Pistons. If they lose, whether it's first round, second round, Eastern Conference Finals, well, maybe if you get to the finals, there, you could say that coach could be on the hot seat if they don't get to the finals. But this is definitely a move where, oh, by the way, we can reenact that American Express card commercial on Major League where we're contenders now, something like that. But shocking to me, shocking to everybody, shocking to basketball fans. I mean, even the casual basketball fan like me is like, huh? But so Jaylen Brown said in a statement yesterday on social media today, I'm still processing how this all came down. I'm excited and disappointed at the same time. I earned my respect from the city, meaning Boston. I never asked for shortcuts or special treatment. I simply showed up every day, put my head down, and accepted every challenge. Well, if he does that here in Philly, he's going to be loved. And he might have his 7 retired here in Philly along with Boston. Now, the deal itself was Brown to the Sixers for Paul George, 2 first-round picks in 2028 and 2031, 2 second-round selections in 28 and 30, according to Sham Charania. Now, that deal cannot be announced until Monday because we're in that period where you can sign with the team or agree to a deal, but it doesn't become official until Monday. Now, His status, Brown's status was in question for weeks as the Celtics attempted to trade him to Milwaukee as part of a deal for Giannis, who was ultimately traded to the Heat. Brown acknowledged that saying goodbye isn't easy when you've invested your heart and stuff. Yeah, you invested 7 years. You were in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think, 6 times. But the irony of all this is he could have been a Sixer on draft night, but ended up getting Ben Simmons. I think the Lakers were the number 2 pick, and they whiffed as well. But they won a title in 2020. More about one of the players from that 2020 team in a moment. Brown continued, the relationships I built here, the battles we fought together, the championships we brought to the city, and the connection I share with the fans, I'll carry on with me. He finished 6th in the MVP voting this year. He was the second-team All-NBA selection, averaging 28.7 points per game, 6.9 rebounds, and 5.1 assists per game. And he plays defense, too. So guess what? As long as he's healthy, Sixers fans are going to love him. He's a 5-time All-Star, 2024 Eastern Conference Final, and NBA Finals MVP when he led the Celtics to their 18th title. Jaylen Brown added, I'm excited for what's ahead and grateful for the opportunity to join Philadelphia. Every city has its own identity, its own passion, its own expectation. I respect that. I'm looking forward to earning that respect the only way I know how, through the work. And if his actions are like his words, you're looking at a guy who's going to be he is a guy that's going to be loved in the city. So, and you're not going to get that. But yeah, so I'm shocked that this deal was made, and I probably won't believe it till September when training camp starts, or even in October when the season starts, or in the preseason where you actually see him on the court in a Sixers uniform. I'm not going to believe it, but it's happened. And I just think that maybe it's worth a shot to put some money down on the Sixers to win. Now, just like any other team, whether you are the Knicks, who are the defending champions, OKC, who won the West, or San Antonio, who won the West, OKC, who won last year, every team is going to have their obstacles. But I don't think you can necessarily say, nothing's a guarantee. Because if it was a guarantee, the defending champion would win every year. Unless it's like Indiana winning the title, and oh, by the way, they won the title despite Tyrese Halliburton blowing out his Achilles last year. But there is a tentacle that comes out of that, according to Anthony Slater of ESPN. And Sham Charania also said this. Now, a day after swinging a shocking trade for Jaylen Brown, the Sixers have entered the mix for unrestricted free agent LeBron James and are attempting to pitch him, the league sources told Sham Charania. Do I have that sound drop? No, I don't. No, God, please, no. That's why I wanted to play. So pretend I did. So Golden State, Cleveland, and Miami are the other known suitors for James. It is expected to take his time before deciding on the next destination to continue his historic 23 year career. Now, do I want LeBron here? No. And I know you're saying, oh, you just don't like LeBron. Yeah, I don't like him. But the point is, you're probably going to have him being the general manager, the president, the coach, all this stuff, not just being the player. And if you sign him, do we have to tag? Do we have Bronny tagging along too? But but that trade opens that door, and the new president of operations, whatever his title is, he is friends with LeBron, so he might be able to talk him into taking a lesser contract. So it'd be interesting to see. And also, the Sixers also signed Anthony Simons on Thursday morning. I think that's pronounced Simons, maybe Simmons, who knows. But and they say in this article here that that's the type of roster upgrade that could help lure James, who has made it clear that he desires happiness, but also a legitimate chance to win at the highest level with the next team. But do we want his talents coming to South Philadelphia? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would be arguing with me right now and saying yes. Make a deal with the devil. And from what I hear, the devil is in air conditioning tonight because it was so damn hot in Philly. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe. I mean, it would be surprised because, I'm such a malcontent with Philly sports at times. But I don't know if they can actually swing this deal unless they trade somebody. But now the way the salary cap is working right now for these 4 teams, well, first, the Warriors have given indication from James that they remain on a short list. The team sources have expressed a recent belief that they aren't necessarily at the top of the short list as James continues to survey the landscape. And in a way, if there is one good thing about LeBron doing this stuff now, don't be surprised, okay? Don't be surprised, that he ends up somewhere. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised he ends up here, but I mean, if there is one good thing about LeBron is he's just not signing with the first person right away. He's not signing with he's not signing with the Knicks because it's the Knicks, it's not whoever. And a lot of the players are just looking for money. And in a way that's good that you're looking for money and whatnot, but in a way, if I want to win and I'm a top player in this league, even after 23 years, or somebody at the back end of his career wanting one more title, I want to make sure I pick the right spot. I want to make sure that I end up going to the team that's going to give me one last title, make me happiest, all the stuff that LeBron is allegedly saying. Now, the Warriors still have pathways to clear enough space to get James the $15.1 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception, though the math is increasingly tricky after their recent signings of Kristaps Porzingis and DeAnthony Melton. The Cavaliers have to offload mid-tier contracts such as Max Strus's and Dennis Schroeder's deals to free money to give James. Now, the Sixers are currently limited to offering James the veteran minimum, which is $3.9 million. Do I see that happening? Hell no. I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening one bit. But I don't think, be honest, I see, because a lot of these deals have been done, and you said, "Oh, I'm not going back to the Lakers." But at this point, if you're going to sign somewhere, you're going to have some team probably unload a shit ton of money. Sixers, according to this, they can only offer the minimum. But I don't see him playing for just the veteran minimum, even though he's made a shit ton of money. But, we'll see. But I don't know where he goes. I hope it's not Philly. But you might have to make a deal with the devil to get that championship that hasn't been here in Philadelphia in 44 years. Well, it'll be 44 by the time next June comes around. So, we'll see. So, I'm sure this will come up before we know it, and we'll go from there. So that was the case there. And I did see this story here. That's NBA related. We're really talking NBA tonight. Now, this one is more of a I'm glad somebody did something about things like this type thing. But I did see today that Tim Hardaway Sr. told his son he's not wearing his 10 in Miami. And I had to say thank God for that. Because we've seen it a couple of times with this younger generation that has come into different sports. Somebody did it with the Yankees. I don't think it was Aaron Judge. I think it was somebody wanted Mickey Mantle's 7. It's like, really, dude? But occasionally, you see somebody trying to get somebody's number. And it happened a few times with the Giants, New York Giants, where Abdul Carter wanted to wear 56, which was Lawrence Taylor. Somebody said, I don't know how coked up he was, but probably, hey, create your own path, which, hopefully it was a polite way of saying it. Malik Neighbors had to have a single number. None of the numbers were available. But he still got the number 1, which was retired by the Giants. Which, and also the number 0, that thing annoys me to no end as well. But I think when you get drafted by a team, you need to respect the history of that team and of the sport. If a number is retired and that's your number, okay, well, I got to go with another number. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal had no problem switching numbers every once in a while because this number was retired by the Lakers. This number was retired by Orlando. This number was retired by the Celtics. sometimes you have to make your own identity. And like, for example, Aaron Nola wore number 10 at LSU, even though Aaron Nola is a meatballer now. He had the opportunity to say, hey, can I have number 10? Now, we don't know what happened. I think he wore 10 in the minors too, but when he got to the majors, he wore 27, and that was the end of it. And sometimes you get a situation like Mitch Williams when he got traded here from Chicago in 91, 92, somewhere in that range. I think it was 90 or 91, actually. John Kruk had 28. Mitch Williams wanted it, offered 2 cases of beer, allegedly. Done deal. But I just think that you have to realize the history. Now, I understand why Tim Hardaway Jr. would want his father's number because, hey, that's family. I can continue the family name and stuff like that. But in the end, no, you don't. You have to realize certain numbers are retired for a reason. Now, granted, Tim Hardaway, should he have his number retired by Miami? It's kind of like Yankees, some of the numbers that they have on there, even though they've had so many world champions and all that. Paul O'Neill, really? The Mets, David Wright, really? They're never getting into the Hall of Fame. I mean, criticize the Phillies that, you have to get into the Hall of Fame to get your number retired. But, I respect that, even though I don't really like it because, like, for example, Chase Utley should have his number retired. Some will argue Jimmy Rollins. I say no. They just have them as unavailable. Personally, I think you need to make Jimmy Rollins' number available because he was a lazy shit at times, and he only hustled when he wanted to. Surprised nobody wants Charlie Manuel's number retired because he won a World Series. No, he did not win the World Series. Jimmy Williams did. But here's the story with Tim Hardaway. Junior headed to the Heat, bringing 3-point shooting prowess and to a revamped team built around Giannis. But he won't have the number 10 jersey that he wore in college and portions of his NBA career. His father's not allowing his number to come back into circulation for the Heat. Tim Hardaway Sr. said, my legacy is my legacy, and he's doing it his way. Even though he likes to wear 10, he loves to wear 10, but that's not coming down from the rafters. Tim Hardaway Sr. told WQAM on Wednesday. And I salute Tim Hardaway for saying, my number's retired. I'm sure, I don't know how the tone was on there, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty much a civil tone, nothing rude about it. But probably behind the scenes, he probably told us, don't even think about it, But, yeah, so I appreciate that Tim Sr. said no. Now, the elder Hardaway played for 5 seasons from the Heat from 1996 to 2001. He was named to the All-Star team 2 times, All-NBA first team in 1997, and second team in 98 and 99. Let me see one thing here. Basketball reference here. He's a Hall of Famer, but the Hall of Fame in this sense is a combination of pro, college, and even high school, and even international. So you'll get some guys here that are in the Hall of Fame that you question, does he really deserve to be there? Now, he did average he only averaged 17.7 points a game. So, but he was part of the Run TMC that they had there in Golden State there. Trying to see here. So he played from 96 to 2001. Yeah, so they didn't win a championship. Because they kept meeting up with the Knicks. They lost to the Bulls in 97 in the Eastern Conference Finals. They lost in the first round to the Knicks in 98 and 99. They lost to the Knicks in the conference semis in 2000. And in 2001, they got swept by Charlotte. So, you know, does he deserve his number retired? But the point is, you get your number retired, there's a reason why the number's retired. And whether it's family or not, you should be respecting the fact that whoever has that number retired has their number retired for a reason, even though some people like me will question why that number is retired. But so Junior has had jersey conflicts before. His 10, the number 10 was retired by the Knicks for Clyde Frazier, and Dennis Rodman's has the honor in Detroit. Now, let me go back over here so I can pull up Junior here. And pull up his basketball reference. Yeah, he wore 5 with the Knicks. He wore 3 with the Knicks. He wore 11 in Dallas, but he eventually got the 10 there. And he wore number 8 with the Pistons. So he has worn different numbers. But I understand why he tried to push that, because, hey, it's Dad's number. But so Hardaway did say today or yesterday, this is tough to do, and when it's up there, you want it to stay there, and you don't want nobody to touch it. Fair. I love him. I love him to death. I'm happy for him. Now he's going to his hometown team. I never done that, so I'm happy that he's doing it. But no, he can't wear number 10. I think that's fair. At least that's what he's saying to the media. He may have been a total dick to his son. It's like, don't even think about wearing my number. You're not getting it. Don't even think about thinking about it or anything like that. Because, yeah, so it definitely is something that I cringe at, where people just do not respect, or kids today, well, young adults or whatever, they don't respect the history of the team or the game or why a number is retired. That they will go and say, well, I want number 1 and wear it for the Phillies. Well, Richie Ashburn's number is retired. You have to pick another number. But I'm happy that somebody said no. But I understand why Junior would want that, because Dad wore that number. But Dad's got a point. So I feel that it's a good thing. So anyways, we're talking about the number 10, the number 5, the number 3, the number 8. We'll see on Saturday what the horses' numbers are that I pick for also eligible on Saturday. Oh, wrong one. Also eligible on Saturday morning. And yes, I will even do a show on the 4th of July. And every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, we're live, except if I'm sick or whatever. But every Saturday morning, and we're going to be celebrating the 4th of July with racing from Saratoga. Tomorrow's opening day, weather permitting, and hopefully they get it in because they have some good races there tomorrow. And we'll get everything going at 10 a.m. Eastern, and hopefully we'll get you guys some winners. After last week, where I had three races, I looked at all 3 races. My horse finished 3rd, but that'll be Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Now, I did see this tonight, and there are rumors going on around here. And let me find this here. If I did not, lose it, I think. Repost. Here it is. This is from Extra TV. Extra on Threads. They are reporting through page 6, which I think is the New York Post paper. The section of the New York Post, I believe. They're reporting that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have already tied the knot in ahead of celebrations at Madison Square Garden. The outlet reports they have been told the couple already exchanged vows in front of a tiny group of loved ones. They are already married, one source insisted to page 6. They say Music Insider in Nashville also says the pair already got legally married. Another source said there are rumors of a small ceremony that happened recently in Tennessee. So, so be it. But I'm sure all the Wifties, as I call them, because in my opinion, well, Carolyn, several newspapers around the country do say that page 6 is the entertainment page. So it isn't just the New York Post. Like the Trentonian used to have a page 6 years ago. It's basically a thing for the entertainment page, the top entertainment stories that they have. So they may be quoting the New York Post, which would not surprise me because it is New York, but that is the case here. So I think that is the case here. And and I'm only mentioning the Taylor Swift thing because Fox 29 here in Philadelphia is still saying that they're expected to get married tomorrow night in Madison Square Garden. But some people are saying it's already been done. But I think, you can have that ceremony in all 50 states if you want to. But, as long as her terrorist organization fans, the Wifties, or Swifties, I'm sorry. Did I offend you, Swifties? Report me to Twitch. I don't care. You are a terror organization, in my opinion. But I just feel like, I think she's just as bad as MAGA. But that's just me. But I'm just happy that we don't have to deal with her doing whatever. But it is what it is. But that's just something I saw in passing day. I couldn't care less. Personally, I'd like to see them go down the aisle and say, I ain't doing this. Fuck you. Something like that. But I'm not getting my wish. So I just think Taylor Swift is a queen bitch. But that's just me. So on to baseball here, and obviously I can't show the video because it'll be a copyright strike or whatever. Kind of like how, there's certain things that you can't do, whether it's Twitch or YouTube or anything else. But on Tuesday night, Kate Cavalli, who's a pitcher for the Nationals, and first baseman Wilson Contreras were the instigators of a bench clearing brawl. Well, it was a little bit of a brawl, but you saw it had the potential of being something, but it's got quelled. But they both were suspended 7 games for their role in a bench clearing brawl. Now, I don't think that's enough. I don't think it's enough for Wilson Contreras. Because I was thinking, Wilson Contreras should get more, because if you watch that video, and you can probably find it on YouTube, you can probably find it on ESPN, just look for Tuesday's highlights on the box score on ESPN or whatever. But I just think if you're going to suspend somebody, part of me says Wilson Contreras should be suspended more, because this isn't the first time that benches have cleared because Wilson Contreras got hit by a pitch. Matter of fact, I think it's like the 3rd or 4th time. And on top of that, he threw his helmet at somebody when everybody was all grouped together. So you could have easily hurt somebody, given somebody a concussion with that flying helmet, and they're probably out of action a couple of weeks because, you did throw it fairly hard. So I don't think, now, at first, when I heard that they both got 7 games, I'm like, it's not enough for Contreras, in my opinion. But after what is mentioned in this article, you could argue Kate Cavalli should get more games, whether you believe the context of this is true or not. Because even if you aren't saying it in this context, it can still be perceived as a racist comment. So, now first, before I get into what Cavalli did, it's unknown if the players are going to appeal. If they don't appeal, the suspensions will begin on Friday. If they do appeal, they get to play through the suspension until their hearing is heard. Now, Cavalli shouted at Contreras after striking him out looking with a full count pitch. Now, obviously, because it's Washington, Boston, I didn't see the game. I didn't see the at-bat, so I don't know exactly what was said leading up to that 3-2 pitch. Were they talking shit back and forth? Did Cavalli almost hit Wilson Contreras? Because he's been hit so many times over the last few years, he's gotten to the point where even if a pitch is this far off the plate to the inside, he's going to say shit to you. At least it seems like it. So Cavalli shouted at Contreras, which now when you hear what he said, you can understand why Contreras may have snapped, even though I don't know what happened during the at-bat. So just looking at that last pitch, he struck him out looking with a full count pitch in the 4th inning. And he said to him, "Sit down, boy." Now, that may seem harmless, but the term boy has a racist history in the United States. Now, Contreras, who is Venezuelan, demurred when asking after the game if he felt there was a racial component to Cavalli's word choice, adding that he plans to let the MLB handle that. Now, so, is it racist because, because Contreras is Venezuelan, Hispanic, Spanish, whatever you want to say? Maybe. But is boy considered, and here's the thing, I read it last minute, and, I'm not studying like racial history of certain things, and, but you would know words are just, words can be twisted, but sometimes you say things in anger where even you're like, oh, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, shit. So, so a few words were exchanged after the initial incident. So Cavalli, with the comments that he made, and also, I didn't see the whole bat, so I don't know if he was trying to hit him or, almost hit him in the first at bat, because fourth inning he did have an at bat before that. Was there something that was brewing between the two that night on Tuesday night? I didn't watch games, so I don't know. But something tells me here that something probably happened. Well, we don't know. I mean, just with this article that I'm looking at. But Contreras did charge the mound. So whether he's going after him just because he was talking shit, or he deemed it was a derogatory statement, whether it be racial or just derogatory in general, okay, well, that's where he gets days because of the fact that he went after Cavalli. So both guys are guilty. But the way that I would, first of all, you have the right to appeal anything in baseball. That's suspension-wise. It's the same as any disciplinary thing within a union where I'm grieving on this, and this being done. But but sports is a little bit different because, but the one thing I would say is, and this is just me thinking, if I'm Wilson Contreras, I'm saying, he called me boy, which can be considered racist or whatever. It's a derogatory word. He should have more than me. Or Cavalli should be saying, well, he should get more. I mean, if I was either one, the way that I am, Cavalli could say in a hearing, well, Contreras should have been given more because not only does he charge after me, he throws his helmet at me. What happens if he connects and hits me in the head? I could be concussed. I could be killed. I mean, the likelihood of that is probably not that good, but you never know. But now, I just think that both parties are wrong. Both deserved something in that range. And usually a pitcher is going to get 5 games minimum as a starter because that's one full rotation. But I think he gets a couple extra days over the 5 because of the boy comment. Contreras is probably a couple of games because, oh, here we go again with this bullshit, and a couple extra games for throwing the helmet. So, I don't know about you. I think they both should have gotten more for different reasons. Cavelli for the boy comment. Contreras because this is like the third or fourth time he's ignited the benches to clear, even if nothing happened. I think just the fact that you're about this close to having a bench clearing brawl and everybody fighting, then yeah, you need to discipline him. At least that's how I feel. But Cavalli did apologize yesterday. And this probably gives the hint that, yeah, this was a racist comment. Even if it is the most innocent context of it, because as a pitcher, you as a starting pitcher, you only need to work 1 day out of every 5. So obviously you have a lot of free time, and he might have talked to the manager and coaching staff after the game. He may have talked to the general manager, may have talked to whoever, may have talked to whoever the player rep is for that team. And I don't think, and of course I haven't seen the video, but I would think that this is him on his own saying this and not anything to try to get his suspension reduced or anything like this. I think this is him as a human being saying something like this. And also knowing the socioeconomic class of the city of Washington, D.C. as well. So he said, I'm extremely torn up about the way things were perceived. Obviously, there was no ill intention behind it. Whether it is or not, but I think you have to take him for his word, especially if this is the first time that something like this happened to him. Because, even if you don't believe that, even if you're not a racist, sometimes words slip out because, even if you don't believe in certain things, sometimes you just say something. It's like, where'd that come from? I don't know. But that's just me. But he said, my teammates know me, my family knows me, the organization knows me. I couldn't sleep because of it. It hurt my heart knowing that if there's a 13-year-old black kid in D.C. that sees that looks up to me and thinks they perceived it in a way that wasn't intended the way it came out, and he's not looking up to me anymore. That hurts my heart. So he realized he is a role model for kids. No matter if it's white, black, whatever. So I think probably what happened was somebody did talk to him after the game. They said, and I'm sure, now I don't know if, I'm sure the team, or at least the players rep, gets the report because of the fact that this is a union matter because he was disciplined by being thrown out of the game. So if they handle this as a union matter, like union matters that you have in a typical union job, yeah, you're going to have different things that you have to that you have to handle. I just think that somebody did talk to him, and they heard what he said. And I think they said, that could be perceived as this. It could be perceived as a racist comment. Also, with the fact that Wilson Contreras is not white, that it could be perceived as a racist comment. So, and I think once you calm down, and it may be Kay Cavalli is the nicest person in the world. And we don't know exactly what was said leading up to this 3-2 pitch. But whatever happened, he has to sit down. Contreras has to sit down. I just think that both don't get enough time here. Cavalli should get more for the fact that he said something which can be perceived as racist. I think Contreras should be suspended more because this is the third or fourth time that he's been part of some bench clearing issues. I'll just call them issues because they weren't full-fledged brawls, but it's been a couple of times already this year. And a lot of times you have progressive discipline, and you get to the point where, come on, man, this is the fourth time this year. You're getting 15 games. So, but that's just how I feel, And does MLB believe in progressive discipline with something like this? That's the question. Now, one final story to talk about here, and this is related to the All-Star game. And as you know before, Phillies are going on their road trip that is kind of forced upon them because of the All-Star game being in Philly in about 10 days. MLB starts taking over Citizens Bank Park and getting everything ready. And as we talked about at the beginning of the show, we talked about the fact that Major League the Phillies, a lot of Phillies fans were whining, oh, the Phillies should be home for the 250th. Well, as we said earlier, Phillies weren't home for the bicentennial day in 1776. They were in Pittsburgh for a doubleheader. And they don't always play at home on the 4th anyway. So this wasn't Washington playing on the 4th every year. This isn't the Red Sox playing on Patriots Day. This isn't Cincinnati playing opening day every year at home. This isn't a tradition unlike any other. It's not even the Masters. But we do have here that Brewers ace Jacob Misiorowski. He says he wants to play in the All-Star game, but he understands why it probably won't happen. Now, the Brewers are playing to have Misiorowski start Tuesday at St. Louis and again on July 12th at Pittsburgh. July 12th is a Sunday. Now, over the last few years, the MLB put in a rule where pitchers with starting assignments on that Sunday before the break are ineligible to pitch in the All-Star game 2 nights later. It's all part of we got to protect these arms and stuff like that. But, I mean, it isn't anything other than it's just a rule that they've put in play over the last 5-10 years. So getting some extra rest during the All-Star break could help Misiorowski, who already thrown 104 innings with his first full Major League season just past the midway point. He threw a combined 141 in the third innings last year, including his work in the minors, the majors, and the postseason. Now, he said it helps that he already got some All-Star game experience last year because it makes it a little easier, it makes it a little cooler. You get to be one of the guys, veterans you were there with last year, kind of got to be in the background and watch, so it's fun. And the thing is, a lot of people were questioning about him only being in the All-Star game with five games pitched. But I think part of the thing was there were so many people that were backing out. It's like, we got to take him, don't we? So that's part of the reason why they did that last year. But so unlike last year where people questioned him being an all-star after 5 starts, there's no question he merits a spot on the roster this year, even if he's unavailable. He's 9-4, ERA of 1.47. He has 156 strikeouts. He threw a fastball last Friday against the Cubs that went 105.5 miles an hour, matched the third highest pitch since tracking began in 2008. Over his past 11 starts, he's 8-2 with a 0.63 ERA. He struck out 105 in those 11 starts. Opponents are just hitting 128 against him. Now, but Misiorowski did give up 5 runs on Thursday, which is a career high, losing a head-to-head battle with Cincinnati's Chase Burns, who's also likely an all-star. But Chase Burns may be in the same situation as Misiorowski because he probably ends up pitching that last Sunday before the All-Star break, which means he would be ineligible if he's selected. So, but keep that in mind when you see last minute that certain players are supposed to be, certain players are getting picked up at the last minute to be in the All-Star game, or you'll start hearing it on Tuesday or Wednesday when, oh yeah, he will pitch on Sunday, so he's going to be ineligible. Or maybe, if he was pitching for the first time in the All-Star game, I would say, well, do you want to take the day off on Sunday? But I think that a lot of this, sometimes you do these things for the good of the player, and you may criticize it, but it is worth the doing that. So anyway, so I will be live again Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Yeah, it's the 4th of July, but you know what? I'm going to be here whether you like it or not. And we will do it live, and we'll go through the races at Aqueduct, their history. From Saratoga. Going to be looking at those races there, and hopefully get you guys some winners to start off the second half of the year. So hopefully we can get out of our second-itis case that we have here, because all 3 races that I highlighted on Thursday or last Saturday, they all finished second. But hopefully we can get some winners on Saturday. So, but that's going to be it for this show. And this was not supposed to be on Q&A Sports Zone. Oops. AJ, sorry. I will fix that for next Thursday on this particular thing that I have. But we'll be live again Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Saturday show will be on the Q&A Sports Zone, as well as everywhere I've been streaming tonight. So come on in at 10 o'clock. We'll have some fun, look at a couple of the races, and see if we can get you guys some winners and latest news and heat. And I might have to come up with a plan just in case something happens where we have a cancellation involved. But either way, hope everybody stays cool out there, especially in the eastern half of the country, because it's going to get worse tomorrow, but it will get better on Saturday and Sunday. At least on Sunday it will. And by Monday or Tuesday, people in Philly are going to be dressing like it's the dead of winter when it's 85 degrees out because it's so cold. But anyways, that's it for now. Do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's do it live Monday night at 9 o'clock. And If you want to join me for some horse racing action, join me at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. We're also eligible. And check out Q&A Racing for my Close Picks winners articles. And hopefully we do get you more winners. We did have one yesterday. We did not have one today. But that's what happens when you have a closer coming from the clouds to win. But that's it for now. Thank you so much.